G'day YouTube. The last time you saw a bike this wild come out of the PBM garage, it was our CBX 1000. This thing's been built for the same client, so let me take you through another purpose-built moto build rundown on our latest GSX 1400. This project started with the tail. Now the GSX 1400 subframe usually starts around the same spot, has a slight dip downwards and then curves sharply up. That sort of thing wasn't really going to work with us because it ended way out here and it just was too high. So what we've done is take the rear subframe off, use the existing frame rails here and then fabricated our own tail end to mount this custom tailpiece as well. The idea from the start with this thing was to sort of lower that seat height so we could raise the suspension a little bit so you still keep your same wheel travel and then create enough room that we could run an undertail exhaust. When you're fabricating a tail to include an undertail exhaust, you sort of have to think about everything at once. You can't build the frame and then decide where the exhaust goes. So what we actually did was build the mid pipe and got our bend set up here without it being completed. So we sort of could get a gauge on where everything would run and allow enough travel for our rear tire as well. So until it was all completed, we had a lot of half finished parts here just to make sure everything would work. The last piece to come on the tail was the actual tail cowl itself. That was the sort of finishing piece on what was done at the start. So once we've cut the subframe off and routed our exhaust up here, we figured that once we moved all the airbox and the side covers, you'd get a really nice view of the tailpipe here. So we've added a little bit of detailing there, which you get a little zoom in of now. And then once that was done, exiting out the tail, I left it nice and long and then we figured out the shape for our tail and fabricated that. The tail cowl on this thing is hand-shaped aluminium sheet metal. Something that we've sort of been playing with more and more. I've got the tooling for it now, so we're starting to explore that side of things, which has opened up like a whole range of different shapes and styles that we can create over what we used to do, which was making a foam buck and then fiberglassing over that. So staying on the tail here, we've upgraded the shocks with a 20mm oversized YSS custom shock absorber. This is a pretty common mod that people do. Because these bikes are a sports tourer, they tend to have pretty relaxed handling. So a lot of guys will lift that tail up 20mm, sharpen up the steering angle a little bit, and it makes them a little bit more lively to ride. So as I mentioned before, the sheet metal tail was the last piece that we did here. I'd sort of taken a bit of guidance with the shape of the tank. It's got some really bold and broad shoulders at the front there. So we've sort of emulated that in having the tailpiece stick outside of the seat that we've fabricated. It sort of gives it a bit more of a muscular look. And then the shape was just something that I thought fit with the tailpipe that we wanted to run with the big long slash cut. That's probably my favorite part of this bike. I spent a good whack of time fabricating this, but it's come out super nice and a really unique part of this motorcycle. So the exhaust itself, we've retained the standard headers, taken it from a 4 into 2, and then there's a slight mid pipe that is run. You've got cylinders 1, 2, and 3 and 4 grouped together, and then there's another 2 into 1 collector that's just underneath the swing arm here. So as it comes through the swing arm gap here, you've got it merging into one pipe. This is a 2.5-inch pipe that we've run. I've put some detailing in there, and then this long section on the rear, it actually contains your muffler. This thing sounds incredible. The gigantic 4-cylinder, a big 1400cc monster breathing through a single tailpipe is absolute magic. Last few details on the tail here, of course, our swing arm mounted number plate holder. This enabled us to keep the tail section completely naked, fully highlighting the tail and exhaust thing that we've done without any number plates intruding it. And another really nice detail, the actual mounting bolts of the tailpiece here go right into the frame. So you've got a hollowed out section here that we've mounted a set of 3-in-1 tail lights in. So that all sort of hides everything. It's a bit of a pain in the ass if you want to pull it apart, but there's nothing really housed in the tail, so you'd never need to do that. It just enabled us to keep everything absolutely minimal here and really, really clean. Working towards the front of the bike now, we've got our custom seat pants being trimmed out in a really tidy Alcantara design. We took that to Timeless Auto Trim to be done. We've got our DNA pod filters that are run off the EFI system. So because these throttle bodies are quite close together, although it's a large engine, we couldn't fit the pod filters side by side, so we've had to add and machine a small extension here to extend that a little bit. We've got our electronics tray underneath here, and then all the sensors and stuff are plugged in. There is quite a lot of wiring on this thing. It was difficult to hide because we don't have any covers anywhere anymore, but for what we needed to run, it's turned out really nice and tidy, and the battery box and regulator was able to be hidden sort of where the old airbox was as well. So before we move to the front of the bike, I just want to mention this nice detail here that I forgot on the tail before. So with this nice sharp tail shape, we're actually able to sort of fabricate it so in essence the shape of the seat actually locks it in place. So we've got a couple of like press buttons that have been welded underneath onto the electronics tray, but this just sort of pops up underneath there, and you can see that little return angle actually latches the seat into place. Underneath the seat here, we've got our delicious little purpose-built Moto black box, all wired up to make everything flash and beep as it should. And I'll just pop this seat back on here now so we can talk about a few more exciting bits up the front of the bike. So moving towards the front end of the bike, the tank on these GSX is actually a really nice piece. Once we've stripped it down, it sort of like helped us to really style the rest of the bike. So we've used the shapes and stuff like that that were on the tank to help style out a lot of the other stuff that we've fabricated. So that was pretty much left as it was, mounted a little bit lower at the front, a little bit higher at the back to sort of flatten that line out. For the handlebars, we've changed those to a much lower profile Pro Taper fat bar. So you've got a custom set of risers that we've actually used to mount our Speedo and tacho in. So we've used a Daytona W gauge. It's an 80mm gauge that houses 2 dials. Super nice, really clean unit that you can sort of keep a lot of symmetry with if you don't want to have 2 separate gauges. So having that mounted up on the tank, it's a really cool spot for it, and it enabled us to make the profile of the headlight area really, really slim. On the handlebars, we've got a set of Brembo radial levers for both the hydraulic clutch and front brake. Purpose-built Moto 3-button switches. We've used a really nice Domino throttle and matched it up with some Pro Taper Street grips. Another nice touch on this bike to sort of keep things nice and clean on our headlight plate, we've actually used a couple of custom mounting brackets to mount our hollow tip LED indicators up under the lever there. Part of our CBX 1000 project last year that really piqued a lot of people's interest was the auxiliary lighting sort of setup that we did. That was an idea that we came up with when we were talking to Luke for the first round. He sort of likes that little bit different side of things, leaning towards the more modern Street Fighter style. So what we've done with this one is sort of used a 4.5-inch headlight here as your main sort of high beam that will come on, mounted in a, I don't know, sort of like a Street Fighter style aluminium plate here. And then we've put 2 auxiliary lights on either side that are mounted off the oil cooler. This sort of continues on the theme of our CBX project and sort of gives a little tie-in for Luke, the same client. He's the sort of guy that he gets pretty adventurous with these projects, which is why we love working with him. If it's something epic, something unique, and something that'll make his mates jealous, he's usually 100% on board, which is a really good thing for us to have in the shop. To dress up our little auxiliary lights, we've handmade a couple of aluminium covers there to be color matched with the rest of the paintwork over the standard sort of black LED light body. The front fender is being kept really simple here. We just had to work with sort of an odd mount that this GSX 1400 uses. So they come in quite high. So the fender actually sits below the mounts, which is a bit of a weird one to work with for us, but we've come up with a nice simple barwork design using some stainless steel brackets and our aluminium front fender kit. It's turned out really nice. It's not an ultimate standout piece on this project, but a nice sort of good bit of fabrication nonetheless. So as we started to strip this bike down and some of the fabrication pieces come together, especially that tail piece, I started to talk to Luke about our color choices here, because from when it came in, there was no real ideas thrown around. He didn't have any suggestions. I didn't really have any idea. So as the project sort of formed organically, I started to develop a bit of an idea. So this sort of theme, and I hate using that word, but the color theme that we've gone with on this bike is reminiscent of the Suzuki MotoGP team. So they have this really sort of pop color candy blue that they use against a silver and white detailing. And I wanted to sort of drag that MotoGP style back just a little bit. So when we did, the first thing that we wanted to color code was the wheels. And I talked to Luke around into using this really bright icy white. So this to me is like a really 90s style that they used to use a lot on sports bikes. So on this later model bike with a lot of these sharp edges, that just sort of drags it back a little bit and makes it feel a bit nostalgic for me anyway. So once we'd had these wheels color coded in that really nice white, we've wrapped them in a Pirelli Diablo Rosso 4. Really ultimate tire. They look super sick, and the handling on this thing when you're ripping into it is unbelievable. So I'm really happy with those. The brakes were all sort of kept as they were. We've just upgraded the lines to braided lines. They're all really doing the job quite well there, so nothing to gain by modifying that too much. And then when we came to do the paint job with Justin from Pop Bang Classics, I sort of had to get a little bit more involved with this one than what I normally would. Generally, I go over to Justin's place, we talk through an idea, I might put a few lines on the tank or something like that, and we'll leave it at that. But with this paint job being such a complex part of the bike and something that I really wanted to weigh the style of it on, I went around, took a bunch of photos, printed those photos out and got sketching of exactly where I wanted the decals to go, where I wanted the sort of branding to sit on the side here with our Motul and Pirelli and the GSX. All that stuff was really imperative to the style of this bike that I wanted. So yeah, I don't know if Justin liked it or hated it, but I sort of gave him a really solid layout of when we went in, and then he sort of got some colors mixed up. I think he had to do the blue by eye because no one really had anything, but he's done an epic job as per usual on this color code. I'm really happy with it. So once this bike was all finished up, well actually before it got painted, we sent it up to Jamie at Dynamite Moto to put this thing on the dyno and see how it went. So with the mods that we've done, open up the intake there and the exhaust, actually got to nearly 100 horsepower on the dyno with this thing. But the major gains that we saw, which is a little bit of a surprise, was through the mid-range. So the torque curve on this thing really flattened out. So he said that he's done a few of these engines before where they've put the Yoshimura cams on and a flash tune from Woolwich, I think it was. And they've sort of gone to 100, 110 horsepower. But the torque curve wasn't nearly as good as what it was on this one. So I think thanks to the exhaust that we fabricated with the 4 into 2 and then into 1, it sort of really helped that mid-range. And this thing, you know, on the test ride, you'll see what I'm talking about hopefully, but it's not a super hot engine, but the power that it delivers is just from sheer brute force. You've got 1400 cc's of a 4-cylinder and the power is just anywhere that you want it to be. It doesn't matter what gear you're in, where in the rev range, it just puts power to the ground, which makes it so fun to ride, especially once you get into those open roads. So I'm gonna give it a start up now, take you guys out for a little ride. This one was a really fun one to get out on. So Enjoy, and make sure you listen out for the ultimate sound that comes out of that tailpipe. Generally, this is the part where your favourite YouTuber is going to ask you to subscribe to their Patreon. Luckily for you, we're not YouTubers. We're bike builders and parts makers. So if you like the content we create and the bikes we build, or you hate both of those things and just want to grab some gear for your next project, make sure you show your support, jump on our online store and give your bike that purpose-built moto touch. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.